Unknown number. Kendra Licari. Cyberbullying her own daughter. Part 3. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Some of you will have watched the Netflix documentary Unknown Number, the high school catfish, which was released in August 2025, or you may recall the case when it first originated back between 2020 and 2022. Kendra Lucari, a Michigan resident, gained notoriety through her involvement in a high-profile cyberbullying case. She was convicted of stalking her teenage daughter, Lauren, and Lauren's boyfriend, Owen McKenney, by sending thousands of harassing text messages anonymously. This behaviour, which lasted over a year, involved crude, threatening and psychologically damaging content. The behaviour might be described as FDIA, factitious disorder, or what was hitherto known as Munchausen's syndrome by proxy. But what about the consideration that this woman might be a narcissist? Licari began sending anonymous texts to Lauren and Owen in the fall of 2020, aiming to break up their relationship. This shows the lack of emotional empathy as a consequence of the interference in an existing relationship. The messages included crude accusations that Lauren was not sexually satisfying Owen, such as repeating claims that she wasn't fulfilling McKenney sexually. This is demonstrative of exploitation, as Licari used intimate details to manipulate and humiliate her daughter, showing no regard for the psychological impact on a 14-year-old girl. To my mind, this stems from resentment towards her daughter's youth and happiness, which, of course, a narcissist would be envious of. It would threaten a need for control and would result in the necessity of the narcissist seeking to sabotage that. Over the course of more than a year, Licari sent messages urging her daughter to kill herself, calling her ugly, anorexic, flat-chested, and claiming everyone despised her. These were not isolated incidents. Lauren received somewhere in the region of 40 to 50 messages daily. This behaviour demonstrates a complete disregard for the lives of other people, supporting an absence of emotional empathy. She treated her daughter as an extension of herself to control, to punish, rather than as an autonomous individual. The text often sexualized Owen, including graphic threats and suggestions that Lauren needed to engage in sexual acts to keep him interested. Licari has suggested that this was a projection of her own resolved trauma from her rape at 17. But, to my mind, this behaviour was more about coercing her daughter into potentially unwanted behaviours, prioritising her need for control over her daughter's autonomy. Again, there's almost paedophilic undertones with regard to the young age of the individuals, which demonstrates narcissistic exploitation. She extended her abuse to Owen, sending him repeated texts for over 2 years, including threats and manipulations. This demonstrates a pattern of broadening harm to maintain control, a necessity of wanting to isolate the victims and feed her sense of power. While sending these messages, Licari accompanied Lauren to report the harassment to police and school officials, positioning herself as the concerned mother. This, in effect, was a form of gaslighting, denying her role while consoling her daughter, exemplifying the narcissistic duality. In effect, she would be deriving satisfaction from the deception that she was engaging in. Licari employed text messaging apps to hide her identity, sending thousands of messages. This allowed her to harass while maintaining a facade of innocence, a classic manipulation to avoid accountability. During the harassment period, Licari was unemployed but lied to her family about working, instead dedicating up to 8 hours a day to bullying. This lie enabled her to continue the abuse unchecked, demonstrating the narcissistic prioritization of destructive behaviors over family stability, again showing no due emotional empathy for those affected by her behavior, both in terms of the direct bullying and also the telling of lies and the financial instability that was generated by her failure to secure gainful employment. Her actions led to the family losing their home owing to missed mortgage payments as she neglected responsibilities because she was focused on the harassment. Yet she framed this as external circumstances, shifting the blame. Again, classic narcissistic deflection. In court, Licari pleaded guilty to 2 counts of stalking minors, but attributed her behaviour to unprocessed trauma from her teenage rape. While trauma, of course, is valid, utilising it to minimise harm, it demonstrates her narcissistic victim playing. Furthermore, it is clear that it didn't come from that. Her narcissism seized upon it as an explanation and excuse for her behaviours. In the Netflix documentary, Licari compared her crimes to driving drunk or committing a crime and not getting caught. In effect, she was equating systematic abuse with minor infractions. This minimization shows a complete inability to acknowledge the gravity of her actions and once again is demonstrative of her lack of accountability. She claimed that everybody makes mistakes. She stated in interviews that harassment was just a mistake, ignoring the premeditated nature of it. Again, this is a classic phrase utilised by narcissists to deflect because there is no genuine true remorse. It's clear that she resented her daughter's budding romance because it was a clear threat to her control. The fact that her daughter was spending more time with somebody else rather than her threatened her need for control over her daughter. Unable to be pleased for her because she has no emotional empathy for her daughter, she responded in an extreme way by engaging in the bullying. In many instances, I have explained to individuals who have experienced alienation from their child as a consequence of the involvement of a narcissist that they give it enough time, and the old adage of give the narcissist enough rope. As the child grows older, they will seek greater levels of independence, hobbies, interests, boyfriends, girlfriends, friends, and this is likely to threaten the narcissist's need for control over them, resulting in the narcissist demonstrating more unpleasant and controlling behaviours towards that child, so that the child eventually realises that that parent is a problem. This has been classically demonstrated in the case of Licari with regard to the way that she resented the budding relationship between her daughter and her boyfriend. It's clear that she was envious of her daughter's beauty, wanting her dead or isolated. The fact that she attacked her daughter's appearance demonstrates that she was projecting insecurity. It's possible that she desired Owen herself, sending sexualized messages about him. This is an inappropriate fixation with a child, which indicates narcissistic boundary violations, envy, and a lack of emotional empathy. Her actions estranged Lauren from her father and others, using abuse to isolate her, a classic narcissistic manipulation. This aligns with parents who project onto children, bullying them privately while appearing to care publicly. By coercing Lauren towards sexual acts via texts, she paradoxically claimed she wanted to protect her from similar trauma she experienced at 17. This clearly demonstrates that she didn't, because if she did, she wouldn't have engaged in such behaviour. Once again, she's projecting her own issues onto her daughter. Her participation in the Netflix documentary spoke volumes about what this woman is. Licari couldn't wait to appear on the programme and share her story. She wanted to be involved. She wanted to ensure that she was seen. Once again, she had no due regard for her family by being involved in the documentary. Licari eagerly shared her story. She presented as excited that she was actually having fun during filming, despite reliving her crimes. This is the clear pursuit of fuel, turning infamy into a platform. In the documentary, Licari simply focused on her trauma and portrayed herself as a complicated person. She was seeking sympathy by virtue of this pity play. It was a performance, again, for fuel. There wasn't a single tear shed during interviews. She operated with a smug facade. This lack of emotional authenticity demonstrates her narcissistic detachment. Post-release, the documentary made her infamous, and she apparently thrives on public reactions, which is demonstrative of the necessity of the receipt of fuel, Love me, hate me, but never ignore me. Licari served only 19 months and expressed hope for a reunion with her daughter, completely ignoring the lasting damage that she has caused. This optimism reflects her denial of consequences. Again, a typical narcissistic behaviour. Licari harassed without fear, believing she wouldn't be caught, which demonstrates the overconfidence often found with many narcissists. She blamed the school for not handling things well, deflecting from her role, a narcissistic externalization of fault. She deceived her husband about her actions and employment, entitling herself to secrecy at the family's expense. She was clearly an individual who resented her daughter, that would lie repeatedly and did so over a sustained period of time. She repeatedly insulted, harassed, threatened, belittled, and invalidated her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. There has never been any attempt to properly account for her behaviours. There has been no full, proper apology, no genuine contrition, no actual remorse. The fact that she deemed that it was appropriate, having bullied her daughter in this manner, to then go onto a programme and talk about it, lapping up the attention and the fuel, is demonstrative, once again, of the self-absorbed nature of this woman. She operated with a huge sense of entitlement, issuing instructions to people and expecting compliance. She believed that she was the centre of the universe and that people ought to fulfil her needs. She's self-absorbed. She shows no accountability whatsoever for her actions. She repeatedly blamed other individuals, failed to show genuine contrition or remorse. There's grandiosity with regard to her taking to the Netflix documentary. She shows no shame at what she had done, but rather revelled in the attention, demonstrating showmanship and embellishment of her behaviours. She's defiant, haughty, arrogant. She displayed a range of differing manipulations with regard to the application of insult, the maintenance of a facade, false contrition, false compassion, pity plays, silent treatments, blame shifting, projection, provocation, and much more. She failed to recognise boundaries. She shows many aspects of the narcissistic dynamic with regard to her need for control over her daughter's increasing independence and relationship with a young man, threatening that need for control, and instances of the exhibition of envy, repeated hoovering, showing the necessity of control and the response to threats to that control, the treating of people like objects, black and white thinking. Whilst there are those that think that it might be Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and I've explained in a video about that very topic that it often involves narcissists, it's quite clear to me that the behaviour of Kendra Licari fits fairly and squarely within the classification of narcissist. Kendra Lucari is not somebody engaging in Munchausen syndrome by proxy. She is a narcissist, exhibiting the pursuit of the prime aims by the mistreatment of her daughter, her daughter's boyfriend, and the neglecting and deceitful behaviour she exhibited to family, friends, and the wider community. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.